Alright, cat fans, if you guys have tuned in, there is probably a good reason why. This is probably about the most difficult cup holder assembly to remove. Nobody has covered it, so I'm going to take the opportunity and give you guys the knowledge that you need. Since you're wanting to take this off, it's pretty obvious why you want to take it off, because you're changing the cover. Alright, so go ahead and get started on the back side. Start taking it off. Then, with your handy dandy razor knife, go ahead and start busting it apart at the seams and get it pulled back until you can get to the bottom side. You know what? I'm just going to clip this in just to show you that there is movement, okay? You see that there is movement. There's a little bit of back and forth movement, but not much. Alright, so how in the world did they get this thing in here? It's really crazy. On the back side of this, so when it's in the up position, it'll be the driver's side. Do the driver's side, okay? Make an incision into the foam. Don't worry, because I know you got spray adhesive. You're going to open this up, spray one side, open that side up, spray it, and then put everything back together the way it's supposed to be so that cut is no longer there. Alright, now that you know why we have a cut, all we're going to do is identify this right here. Okay, I'm going to bring it closer so you can see. And give it some more light so you can see. Just a wee bit more light so that you can see what's holding this thing together. Alright, there it is. That's the clip. Now, from my point of view, all I'm going to do is I'm going to reach in and I'm going to push down on this clip. Push down on it, and that will release that side, and then come over here, make sure I'm still in frame, do the same thing to this one, release that clip, and you'll know that they're loose because it'll feel loose. Then you're going to come over here and just grab it and pull it away from that side. Alright, then that will release this thing. Remember what I tell you, if you live to be 999 years old, cars are made to go together, not to come apart. Alright, it is these tabs right here. They are on the bottom side of this right here, past the metal that you see right here, which is embedded into the foam on the underside, and they clip to the bottom side of this, bottom side of that, bottom side of this, and bottom side of that. There are 4 of them. If you want this thing back in your armrest, which I'm quite certain you do because you tuned in, if you want to save this and preserve it, that's all you have to do, is pull these tabs back, and that will release it. Now you're ready for your new cover. Save your old cover, make a circle here, make a circle here, just big enough for these tabs to engage, because from the factory this is what they had. So that's all you're going to do. Furthermore, since this is backwards, on your replacement there is going to be a clip, a J-channel clip. That J-channel clip is going to get installed right there. And when you put all this back together, you'll make an incision just big enough to handle both sides, but leave the fabric in between. You've got to have that. Alright? So just be careful, because on the back side here, there is a little bit of an arch. There has been allowance and or relief. But when you get the new cover, if it doesn't have this in it, you're probably going to have a little bit of difficulty and complication. But this is designed to lay flat in here, and your new cover may not have this. So you may have to break out the sewing machine and take this off and install it on your new cover, being very careful not to go too far into this, because the tabs that you're going to be sewing to are going to look like this right here. There's not much of a tab. So you can see that stitch line right there is what's holding this together, and it is certainly wider than this right here is, because again, it is designed to go down inside here because of this right here. This profile that you're looking at right here is going to prevent, if it was laying like this right here and it was taut across there, you would not be able to settle this down in here without causing it to gather in this area on both sides, and it would cause the profile of this to become smaller. So if it doesn't have that, just go ahead and take this off, use your razor knife, and put a new one on there. Lay this down on your new material that you got. Be sure to also install this right here if it doesn't have it. I'll be right back. I'm going to get the new one and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. I am a firm believer of a company called leatherseats.com. We do business with them quite often. But you're going to see that this particular cover only has this part right here. So there is going to be some modifications, alright? So don't be scared. You've been sewing for how many years? Alright, so this is the side profile right here. This is the knockout right here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your old one, lay it out on here, turn it inside out, or bust out the seams where you can get to it, and open it up completely so that you can see. Just lay it straight in there and you will know exactly how much to take away. Now I'm going to take my Sharpie I'm going to make sure all my corners are all lined up. Let's make sure that we're in frame as well. I'm going to check alignment left to right in the front. Hold that part down. Check alignment in the rear. Hold that part down. This is a knockout right here. That's a knockout. This is a knockout. And this is a knockout. There is no J-clip. If I were you, I would go ahead and install the J-clip. So what we're going to do is make the allowance for the J-clip. We're going to connect all the dots. Going all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, all the way around. Then, after that is done, get the Velcro to let go. Now we're going to come over here and draw this line. We're going to draw this line. To these two lines, you're going to have a stitch line. That stitch line is going to be right here. Forever how wide that is going to be. Now, I would recommend that you go ahead and sew this down before you cut it out. And the reason being is really quite obvious. You don't want this material to travel all over the place. Last and final thing, before you go hog wild and marvel at your own talent there, I would make sure that the distance on this seam to your first knockout is 4 inches. It is not on this one. So what do? You try and average it up. Try and find a good place. Okay, so I'm going to there. Not to this outside one, I'm going to there. Going to this inside one right here. And that is actually 3 3/4. So that tells me I can't put it back on here, so I'm going to have to compensate. So this is our new line. I'm going to X through this right here because that is not a good line. Now, when I look at it, by comparison, it also seems like this is too far away from that line. Like I said, I can always cut it, but I can't add to it. So this is going to be our new line, and that will be our new line. And to that, we're going to sew this to it. All right, well, how do you do that? You got to turn it inside out and get this part up underneath the foot of the sewing machine. And I'm going to do that here just shortly. All right, welcome back. I am going to now staple up to about here. I'm going to staple right next to each other. Staple, 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 and staple. Alright, don't need to staple. I don't know why I was stapling it, but anyway, at least make sure that these two are even when you sew it back together. That's just forced a habit when I'm trying to separate something and I've got to re-sew the same line, so please forgive me. I was getting a little bit ahead of myself. So we're going to bust this thing apart at the seams so we can get to this region right here without having to fight it too much underneath the sewing machine, because it will be a fight. Alright, give me a second. We're going to bust it apart at the seams and I'll be right back. Alright, now that I've busted everything apart at the seams, now I can get this up underneath the sewing machine. Alright, we're back. So I'm going to start right here. Remember, this line was not in the purview of what we were trying to do, so I want to make sure that I have it and not need it the other way around. Moving right along. I'm just using a reverse feature on my sewing machine so I can get all the way around this thing and not have to keep turning it and turning it. In the automotive world, they have CNC machines that can do this for them, but this is how we did it back in the day, and so here we are doing it the old school way, which was everything included but not limited to going ahead and separating it at the seams, making sure that when you get up to this top area that you're not getting this right here sewn down in the middle of everything. So you're going to make sure that that's not in there when you're sewing it down. Now this is the part right here that the J-hook is going to be sewn to. So we're going to make sure, I'm a little wonky here, a little crooked, so I'm going to take it out in sewing. That again is going to be for our J hook. One more. And we'll go back around this curve, finish everything out. And we're back where we started. The back stitch, make sure it doesn't come undone. Go ahead and remove it out of the sewing machine's throat. Y'all please excuse my big gigantic scissors here. And now that we have this, now we can cut just to the inside of that thread line, and I'll be back and show you that. This is what it should look like right here. After you're done sewing, that's what you should have. Let me turn it over and start cutting it out. Remember also the relationship between what you have and what you're going back to. This one right here was attached this way, but technically when I sewed it down, or when I start to sew it down, I'll have it to where this side is facing up, and it will be attached this way right here. Same thing with this. Make sure that you pay attention to the relationship, how they're sewn together before you go and start putting everything back together. This right here is going to have to be sewn down this way. Where this is facing down. Gonna do that now. If you have a zipper foot, it'd be a good time to change it up. So that'll be step 3. Step 1 was to mark it along the back side. Step 2 was to sew it down. Step 3 is this right here. And we're about to move on to step 4, which is going to be removing this off of the old one, putting it on the new one. Step 4 is complete. Now all we have to do is sew it back together, but now we have the proper amount of slack in there so that the cup holder can go back in there. Now it's time to sew this back together. Alright, now remember where I told you I had goofed and I was stapling along the edge there? You can do that. I do it all the time just because I am trying to cover bullet holes. Alright, so now comes the stapler. I'm going back, making sure that both of my edges are even. Put a staple. Then I'm going to look inside and make sure that my 2 bullet hole lines are matching. Then I'm going to put another staple in it. This is just insurance, folks, because sometimes when I put things back together, they don't always line up. This is just a little insurance policy. Now, we pulled it all the way up to here, so we're going to start up here and backstitch. Be sure to change up your thread. If you're using white, use black or the color that they had, like a dark brown. So I'm going to backstitch, and I'm going to make sure that I sew just to the left hand side of this, because when I open this up, I don't want to see bullet holes. Paying attention to the sides and the edges to make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be, and focusing my attention on staying to the left hand side of the bullet holes that were already there. Not by much, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. If you gather it up too much, it's going to be a really super tight fit, which I'm not against that either. You're going to have to bag it to put it back on there. Use a Walmart shopping bag or a Dollar General bag. I use Dollar General bags, just so that the cover will slide back on there. Make sure that you take your staples out. We're going to invert this, put it inside out again to make sure that I'm not seeing any bullet holes. We got one more side to resolve. It'll be this side right here. Clear out your old thread. Make sure that there's no tails from your existing thread. Make sure that's all on the inside. Getting all the old thread out. Making sure all that thread is gone. I'm going to be brave and live a little. I'm not going to staple this side. But we are going to do the same thing. We're going to start up in here where the seam was not taken apart. Going to go just to the left hand side of that and merge to the left hand side of the bullet holes as I'm sewing, making sure that these bullet holes line up with these bullet holes right here. That's very important. When we turn it inside out, if you're not careful, those bullet holes will be seen. I'm always real careful to make sure that all my old thread is out. I'm going to finish right where they finished. Be sure to back stitch so it does not come unraveled. Cut your tails. Turn it inside out, check the product, make sure that we're not seeing bullet holes. Okay, that's not my seam, but that is. And we are not seeing bullet holes, which is great. It's time for this to go back on. So we're going to start and just kind of like partially turn this thing inside out. Right there. It's like putting a sock on. So we're going to start and we're going to leave it just like that. Go ahead and put this bag back on here that they had on here. I'm not going to have to use a Walmart or Dollar General bag, but I'm going to use this right here, and I'm going to put it back on our main piece here. Just slide that on just like they had it. We're going to take this and we're going to put it like that. With the cup side down. And that side right there. We're going to go ahead and sleeve this on here.